Let me describe a feeling you probably know. It's payday, your phone buzzes, you check your account, and for about 30 seconds, maybe a minute if it's a good check, you feel okay. You feel like things are fine, maybe even good. And then, slowly, over the next few days, that number starts shrinking. A bill here, groceries there, you fill up your gas tank and wince a little. You grab food because you didn't plan anything for dinner. A subscription renews that you forgot about. And 2 weeks later, you're doing the math again, wondering how a paycheck that felt decent just evaporated into nothing you can actually point to. That moment, that quiet confusion, is the most common financial experience in modern life. It's not a money problem, it's a sequence problem. The money was there, the intentions were there, but there was no plan for the 48 hours that actually determine where it all goes. What I want to walk you through today is a paycheck routine, not a budget, with 27 categories. Not a punishment plan where you stop buying coffee and feel miserable. A simple, repeatable sequence of decisions you make every time money hits your account. Decisions that over time completely change the financial distance between where you are now and where you actually want to be. This works whether you get paid weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, whether you make $30,000 a year or $130,000. The order of operations matters more than the amount, and most people have the order completely backwards. Let's fix that. Why people stay stuck. The real reason. Before the routine, you need to understand something about why the current system fails most people. Because it's not laziness and it's not stupidity, and it's definitely not that they don't care. Here's what's actually happening. When money arrives in your account, your brain doesn't immediately categorize it as future rent or retirement savings. It registers as available. And available money, according to the way human psychology works, is basically the same as already spent money. It's just waiting for a reason. So without a deliberate structure in place, the money flows toward whatever has the most immediate emotional pull: comfort, convenience, something you've been putting off, a small reward for working hard. None of those things are wrong on their own. The problem is that they happen first, before the important things. And by the time rent is due or an unexpected bill shows up, the account is thinner than it should be, and you're back in reactive mode. There's also something called lifestyle creep, and it's worth naming because it's sneaky. When your income goes up, even slightly, your spending tends to rise to match it almost automatically. A slightly nicer version of things you were already buying, a few more subscriptions, eating out a little more often. None of it feels dramatic. But 6 months later, the raise is completely absorbed, and nothing has actually improved in your financial life. The money came in. The lifestyle expanded to consume it, and you're in the exact same position, just with a higher baseline. The paycheck routine exists to interrupt that pattern before it takes hold. Step 1. Before you spend a single dollar, know your actual number. The first thing you do when your paycheck lands is not transfer money. It's not pay bills. It's confirm your real spendable number for this pay period. Your gross income, the number on your offer letter, the number you tell people when they ask what you make, is not your money. After taxes, insurance premiums, any retirement contributions already taken out, and any other pre-tax deductions, the number left is what you actually have to work with. That's your net pay. And if you're not clear on exactly what that number is every pay period, you're planning with a fictional budget. This sounds obvious, but a lot of people are still mentally anchored to their gross salary. They think of themselves as someone who makes $60,000 a year when their take-home is closer to $43,000. Those $17,000 exist on paper and nowhere else in their life. Planning around the wrong number is like building a house on a blueprint that doesn't match the actual land. So step 1 is simple. Open your bank app or check your direct deposit, write down or mentally lock in the exact amount that landed. That's your starting point. Everything else flows from here. Step 2. Automate the first move. Here is the most powerful thing you can do with a paycheck, and most people do the opposite. Immediately within 24 hours of your pay landing, ideally the same day, move a portion of it out of your main spending account automatically, before you pay bills, before you buy anything, before the money has any chance to blend into your general sense of, yeah, I've got money right now. The reason automation works is not because it requires willpower. It works precisely because it eliminates the need for willpower. Every decision you have to consciously make about saving money is a decision you might make differently, depending on how stressed you are, how hungry you are, what kind of week you've had. But an automatic transfer doesn't care about any of that. It runs because you set it up once. Now, what you're automating depends on where you are financially. If you have no emergency fund, this first automated move goes into a separate savings account, not your checking, not an account you look at regularly, ideally a high-yield savings account at a different institution, so there's a small bit of friction before you can touch it. If you already have a solid emergency fund, this move goes toward your investment account or your highest priority financial goal. How much? A common starting point is 10% of your take-home pay. If that feels impossible right now, start with 5. If even 5% feels like it'll break the budget, start with 2% and a plan to increase it every 3 months. The amount matters less at first than the habit. You are training yourself to live on less than you make, and you're doing it through structure rather than motivation. The moment you stop relying on yourself to remember to save and instead let the system do it for you, your savings rate stops being a personality trait and becomes a mathematical inevitability. Step 3. Cover your non-negotiables first. After the automated savings move, the next thing that gets handled is your fixed obligations. Rent or mortgage, utilities, car payment if you have one, insurance premiums, minimum debt payments, any expense that has a due date, a consequence for missing it, and an amount that doesn't change much month to month. The reason this comes before anything discretionary is simple. These are the expenses that create real damage if they go unpaid. A missed rent payment affects your housing security. A missed insurance payment leaves you exposed. A missed minimum payment triggers fees and credit damage that costs you more money over time. These aren't optional, so they shouldn't compete with optional spending for the same pool of money. A practical way to handle this is to know your total fixed expenses as a monthly number. And if you get paid biweekly, know what half of that monthly number is, because that's roughly what you'll need to set aside from each paycheck to cover them. Some people keep a separate checking account just for bills, with an automatic transfer from their main account every pay period. When the bills come, they pull from there. When the money is spent, it's because bills were paid, not because it drifted away. This separation doesn't have to be complicated. Even just tracking your fixed expenses in a note on your phone and confirming they're covered before moving on to anything else creates the psychological clarity that most people are missing. Step 4. Build or maintain your emergency fund. This step is for a lot of people the most emotionally difficult one because it requires setting aside money for something that isn't happening yet and might not feel urgent. But here's the honest reality. Without an emergency fund, you are one unexpected expense away from derailing every other financial decision you're trying to make. Your car needs brakes, your kid gets sick, you have a medical bill, your hours get cut. Without a cushion, all of those events become debt. And debt has a cost that follows you for months or years. A conventional benchmark is 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. If your monthly essential costs, rent, food, utilities, transportation, come to about $2,000, you're aiming for somewhere between $6,000 and $12,000 in liquid savings. That might feel like a long way off right now, and that's fine. You don't need it all at once. You need to be consistently moving toward it. If your emergency fund is empty, treat it like a bill, give it a fixed monthly contribution, even if it's $100, and automate that too. If your emergency fund is partially built, keep contributing until it's complete. Once it's fully funded, those contributions redirect toward investing or debt payoff. The emergency fund isn't the goal. It's the floor that makes every other goal survivable. Here's what most people miss about this. An emergency fund doesn't just protect you financially, it protects your decision-making. When you have no cushion, every small financial stress becomes a crisis. And crisis mode thinking leads to bad decisions. You take on high-interest debt, you raid your retirement account, you accept a bad deal because you need money now. A funded emergency account keeps you rational in moments that would otherwise make you desperate. That's worth more than the math alone suggests. Step 5. Handle debt with a strategy, not just minimum payments. Most people with debt are making the minimum payments and feeling vaguely guilty about it. That's not a strategy. It's a delay tactic that keeps you in the system longer and costs you significantly more than the original amount you borrowed. Here's a simple way to think about debt after your paycheck routine covers the essentials. First, always pay at least the minimum on everything. That's not negotiable. but then pick one debt to attack with any extra money you can direct toward it. The two common approaches are the avalanche, highest interest rate first, which saves you the most money mathematically, and the snowball, smallest balance first, which gives you faster psychological wins and tends to help people stay motivated. Neither is wrong. The best method is the one you'll actually stick to. If you need to see a balance hit zero to feel like something is working, snowball your debt. If you're comfortable playing a longer game and want to save the most interest, avalanche it. What matters is that you make a deliberate extra payment on that one target debt every single pay period. Even an extra $50 a month on a credit card balance can meaningfully shorten the payoff timeline. The goal is to stop letting the minimum payment become the default permanent payment, because that's exactly how the system is designed to keep you paying. Step 6. Invest before lifestyle spending. This is where the routine starts separating people who build wealth from people who just earn money their entire lives. After savings, after fixed expenses, after your emergency fund contribution and your debt payment, before you start spending freely on discretionary stuff, you put money toward investing. Retirement account if you have one available. Index funds if you're doing it independently. Whatever vehicle you're using, the investment contribution happens here in the routine, not at the end of the month with whatever's left. And here's why the sequence matters. If you wait to invest until you see what's left at the end of the pay period, there will almost always be very little left. Not because you spent irresponsibly, but because spending expands to fill available space. This is a documented pattern in human behavior. Money that feels available gets used. But if investing is part of the routine, if it happens automatically, early, alongside your other essential moves, the money simply isn't available to drift toward discretionary spending. A useful rough target, somewhere in the range of 10 to 15% of your income going toward retirement over the course of your career, is a widely cited starting point for long-term security. If you're far from that right now, you're not alone, and you don't need to get there overnight. Start with what's possible. Increase it incrementally. The compounding effect of even a modest, consistent contribution over decades is one of the genuinely remarkable things in personal finance. Money you invested. 30 has decades to grow before you need it. The biggest mistake is waiting until you feel ready or until there's more money. There will always be a reason to delay. The routine removes the decision from the emotional moment and makes it structural. Step 7. Give yourself a real spending number. Everything up to this point in the routine has been about moving money deliberately. Now comes the part most finance advice gets awkward about: spending freely on your actual life. Whatever is left after savings, fixed expenses, emergency fund, debt, and investing, that's your real number. That's the amount you can spend on groceries, clothes, entertainment, restaurants, hobbies, and anything else that makes your daily life feel like yours. And you don't need to track every dollar or justify every purchase within that number. If it's in the spending pool, it's available. That's the point. This is different from a traditional budget where you assign amounts to dozens of categories and feel like you're constantly managing a spreadsheet. The routine handles everything important at the front end, and the spending number is what remains. It's genuinely spendable, no guilt attached. The key is knowing the number. If your take-home this pay period is $2,200, and after all your routine moves, you have $650 left for 2 weeks of discretionary spending, you need to know that number clearly, not vaguely, not "I think I have some room." You need to know it the way you know your rent payment, because that clarity is what stops you from spending more than you actually have available. Some people track this with a simple running total in their phone's Notes app. Others use a debit card for discretionary spending and just watch the balance. Others have a separate account for spending money. The method doesn't matter. Knowing the number does. Step 8. Review and adjust every pay period. The routine isn't static. Your income changes, your expenses shift, your goals evolve. Every pay period, after you run through the sequence, take 5 minutes to assess whether anything needs adjusting. Did a subscription renew that you don't use anymore? Cut it and redirect that amount toward your savings or debt target. Did you get a small raise? Don't let it dissolve into lifestyle creep. Direct at least half of any income increase toward your financial goals before your spending adjusts to accommodate it. Did an emergency fund withdrawal happen last month? Temporarily increase your emergency fund contribution this pay period to start rebuilding it. This 5-minute review keeps the routine honest and responsive. Without it, the routine becomes a set of numbers you set up once and forget. And then eventually it drifts out of alignment with where you actually are. The practical paycheck flow. A simple example. Let's put this into concrete terms. Imagine your take-home pay every 2 weeks is $2,200. Day 1, payday, an ET, automatic transfer of $220 moves to your high-yield savings account. That's 10% gone before you see it. Another $150 moves to your investment account, retirement or otherwise. Now you're working with $1,830 for the pay period. Fixed expenses for this 2-week period total roughly $1,300 when you spread rent, utilities, and insurance across your pay cycles. That brings you to $530. You make an extra payment of $80 on your highest priority debt. This is above and beyond the minimum that's already baked into your fixed expenses. That leaves you $450 for 2 weeks of real life. Groceries, fuel, a dinner out, whatever you need. That's your number. Spend it without apology. It's not glamorous math. But over 12 months, you've moved $2,600 into savings, nearly $4,000 into investments, and paid down your debt faster than the minimum schedule required. And you didn't do it through extreme sacrifice, you did it through sequence. What happens when extra money shows up tax refunds? Side income, bonuses, gifts. Any money that arrives outside your regular paycheck is an opportunity that most people squander. Not because they're careless, but because extra money feels different from regular income. It feels like fun money. It feels like it was already free. Here's a framework worth adopting. Split irregular income intentionally. A reasonable split for most people is 50% toward a financial goal, emergency fund, debt, or investments, and 50% towards something that makes you feel the reward of having worked for it, a trip. Something you've wanted for a long time, an experience worth having, not 100% to spending, because that's money that could be doing real work, but not 100% to savings either, because treating every windfall as a financial obligation makes money feel punishing, and that's not sustainable. The point is to make the decision deliberately before the money blends into your account and disappears into nothing memorable. Remember those 2 people from the beginning? Same job, same salary, same city. The one who built a down payment, paid off the car, and had the investment account growing. They didn't have more discipline. They didn't suffer through their 20s so they could enjoy their 40s. They just had a sequence, a routine they ran every time money showed up before the money had a chance to make its own decisions without them. The other person wasn't bad with money. They were just reactive, waiting to see what was left, hoping things would add up, spending with good intentions, but no structure to back those intentions up. You already know which of those 2 people you want to be. The routine is how you close the gap between knowing and actually getting there. It doesn't require a perfect income or a perfect life situation. It just requires running the same sequence every pay period until it becomes the most natural thing you do with money. Your next paycheck is a chance to start. The one after that is a chance to refine it. And a year from now, you'll look back at the account balances and realize, quietly, without drama, that the money didn't disappear this time. It went somewhere you actually chose. That's the whole thing. That's the routine.